Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Slay to Success talk show. My name is Rochelle Slay or Slay Queen Hemingway, CEO and founder of Slay to Success. And y'all, I hope you are staying safe and staying warm. I don't know what's going on with these platforms right now, but it is not going to stop the show. Okay, so it may look a little bit funky today. That's okay. But we are here tonight because I have such a amazing guest. Y'all are going to absolutely love her. All right. And when we bring in guests to this show, the purpose of this show is to really invite the people that I meet. And I know they're in alignment and they are talking through the slay philosophies. And that's right. Slay means to kill it, to dominate it, and to nail it, to be on point, to impress greatly, and dream big and work hard until you own it. It is also an acronym that stands for Universal Life and Leadership Philosophies that really resonate with me. And hopefully they resonate with you too. And that is stay ready to be ready, lead out loud, a sense of community, and knowing you are built to last. So, as your talk show host, personal brand strategist, expert, imaging, certifying individuals. It's all a whole bunch of things that I do. All right. But most importantly, I hope that you are coming to hear about how men and women are positively making an impact in this world. And again, there's a little bit of technical difficulties tonight because of the weather situation and so forth and so on. But hopefully you will get the information that you are searching and looking for tonight. So who do I have on the guest as a panel for tonight, y'all? I have my great friend, Brittany Moffitt. Now, she is a licensed clinical social worker, a psychotherapist, and the founder of Worthy to Live Therapy. She works with women who have been shaped by trauma and difficult birth experiences and who are ready to stop carrying the past alone. Her work is about healing, meaning, and reclaiming a life that feels abundant and authentic. And at the center of everything she does is a simple belief: every story matters and every person is worthy to live. So please put your hands together for my special guest tonight, Brittany Moffitt. Good evening, Queen.
Good evening. Hi, Rochelle. Hello, everyone.
Hello. Listen, you're so gracious because, these things, these platforms, how they work, sometimes they go right as planned and sometimes they just don't. That's what happens when you go on live shows. So thank you for your patience. Thank you for your yes, because I know that we're going to have such a great conversation tonight. And y'all, if you're tuning in for the first time, or if you're here and you're like, you know what, I really want to listen to this, please let us know where you're streaming in from. Give us your name. Me and Brittany will be able to see you, and to just invite you into the conversation that we're going to have tonight because you decided of all places this is where you wanted to be. Okay. And that's here with Slay Nation. All right. So, Brittany, my queen. All right. Now, we were introduced some way along the way, Businesswomen's Network, and really understanding what each other does. And I was like, we need to talk about this more on this show. So please just tell the audience a little bit about yourself, kind of how you got into this space, and we'll get the conversation started that way.
Yeah. So, again, thank you for having me.
Yes.
So, I am a mom of two boys. I'm a wife. I'm born and raised in Southern Maryland. But my practice is a mental health practice, and we're based in Columbia, Maryland. And I'm a licensed clinical social worker, as you've said. And I really aim to just help women to come out of survival mode. So I help women to get out of the cycle of just getting through the day to actually living an abundant and authentic life. And really getting connected to this calling came from my own difficulties of just surviving and not really living an abundant life. I was living through my strategies. I was living through the masks that I wore day to day. And so, because of my own personal story of overcoming those things, it really propelled me to walk in this calling. And so that's what I love to do with women, every day in my practice.
Well, that's absolutely amazing. So tell me, how'd you get there? Because, the journey to a calling, it could be years in the making. All right. So, how did you end up deciding this is what you're supposed to be doing?
Yeah. So it's a continued journey. I'm still on the journey. Um, every season of my life, I've gave myself the decision to keep getting curious
Mm,
about why I'm doing certain things that I'm doing.
yeah.
Because I realized when you say yes to something or when you say no to something, that's information. That's information to what you're feeling aligned to and what you're not feeling aligned to.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime that I said yes to counseling someone or teaching in a certain platform, or I felt so aligned in that. And not that I wasn't nervous, not that I didn't feel inadequate at times,
Mm,
but there was a sense of peace attached to it of like, this is the place I'm supposed to be.
yeah.
So the way that I've been learning about my calling is staying curious about
Mm-hmm.
my yeses and my nos and what feels aligned and what doesn't feel aligned in my life.
Yeah. I think that is so important. And that is something that we're going to continue to pull through this entire conversation. It's the yeses and the nos, and understanding why you're saying yes and why you're saying no, and honoring that. So we'll kind of weave that through the conversations. But what you do is a very, maybe somewhat complex, emotional work, because they've the women that you're working with have been through somewhat of a traumatic situation. And I know it's maternal health, you know um, awareness that is happening right now. um, One of the things that I had to learn after having our son was the risk that is involved with having a child, right? And some of the things that come with that. And I know that's some of the space that you're operating in. So, like, going into that area of very much complex trauma based, how do you specifically ground yourself and lead yourself through that?
Mm, that's a great question. So I ground myself in my faith. That's one portion of this.
Mm,
That's a huge portion for me. So
yeah.
I ground myself in faith, knowing that this is the space that God has called me to be in. And I know that what I'm doing is a purpose that is beyond my own ability. So I really trust God to equip me in the counseling room, in the stages and places that I'm going into. So that's one thing that grounds me.
Okay. Yes. Right
And
on.
then the second thing is knowing that I'm a constant learner, that I
Mm-hmm.
haven't fully arrived to knowing everything, that when I meet a new person who's sitting across from me telling me about her story, her pain, her her heartbreaks, that I can be a solid, compassionate, curious space for her.
Mm,
Because a lot of times we don't have that.
mm-mm,
We go into places and spaces and we feel that our emotions are too much, that
mm,
what we went through was too much, and so we silence ourselves, or we keep it buried, or we keep it hidden, and
mm-hmm.
so we carry a lot of pain alone. And so I really make sure that I am a curious and compassionate place for women to open up, to
Yeah.
explore whatever areas are important for them for their healing.
Yeah. You know, the traumas that we carry as women, they are deep and they are wide. And to have a place just to talk and just say, you know what, no one else is really getting this, and being able to just express these feelings and these emotions, and to kind of validate. And I wouldn't say like, totally like, oh, okay, all this is, fact based, somewhat. but it's really truly, I hear you, I see you, I understand, I empathize with you, and I want to support and help you. So, with that being said, I do have a question already. So, Facebook, y'all ain't trying to let me be great, okay? Because I can't see these comments, but that's okay because I got my phone. Right. So, on my phone
Stay
here,
ready, Slay.
right, we stay ready up in here. All right. So Dee Dee is listening in. Hey, Dee Dee. And she was also a guest on the show here this month. And she says, is it possible for callings to evolve, to change? If yes, how do you navigate through the noise, the doubt, and even the questions?
That's so good. Okay.
Yeah.
So, do callings evolve and change? My
Mm-hmm.
answer to that is yes, according to the season that you're in,
Mm.
right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really important to discern the season that you're in. For
Yeah.
example, as me, I'm a new mom. My kids are 4 and 2, right? So I have a calling as far as worthy to live of what I'm supposed to do with like my counseling and everything like that. And I
Yeah.
also have a calling with my family and how I am raising up these 2 boys.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a time where I have to understand which calling needs more of my attention and focus. Not that I'm
Mm.
neglecting other things, but it's a matter of priority.
Yeah.
And some things have to take a higher priority than other things. Not that they don't matter, but it's
Mhm.
that discernment of what season am I walking in. So
Mm.
that's one thing that I think about with calling. And the second part of her question, Slay,
Mhm.
it was
It was, if how do you navigate through the noise, the doubts, and
yeah.
maybe the questions?
Yes, this is such a good question because there's so much noise out there.
Mm.
I was on YouTube today because we had a slow day with all this snow. So I'm scrolling.
Mhm.
There's so much noise about what you should do, where you should be, how you can get there. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think there's a lot of great wisdom, and knowledge out there. But what is knowledge if you don't have understanding?
Mm. Okay, Brittany. Listen.
Right? What is knowledge if you don't have understanding? What
Yeah,
is all of this knowledge if I don't understand what it means for me and my
yeah,
calling and my season of life right now?
you're absolutely right.
Then it
What
just
does it mean?
Mhm.
You know, and a lot of people who come and listen in, they know that these conversations can get really deep. But I love just thinking about what it is that we're doing
Yeah.
and not to get caught up in all of what is out there because there is a lot of noise and sometimes we get our thoughts so jumbled up and we are just going and sometimes I've done this whole like circle of where I started out at when I started the business. And I'm going back to some of those things because I got distracted. I got
Mm.
get so busy and got caught up in what other people were doing. And so we just got to bring it on back to what we started because usually that's where we should be. So I love that you said that. I've got Melissa here too on the LinkedIn side. Hey, Queen. She said, hi, ladies, just joining. Thank you for joining us. And then Leslie George is on the Facebook side. And she said, understanding and clarity. And then Dee Dee responded with the interesting perspective. Thanks. And with the prayer hands. Because, callings, purpose, those types of mission driven, uh, and I call it like these like service work, advocacy work, social impact, civilian impact, because coming from a military to a civilian space, um, understanding what you've been designed to do,
Yeah.
right? And that's different for everybody. So what called you to the space? And let's just talk about maternal health. What called you to that?
Yeah, so it started with my own birth experience that was completely overwhelming.
Mm.
I had preeclampsia, so that's
Mm-hmm.
high blood pressure in pregnancy, which is very common among women of color.
Yeah.
And it's something that's not talked about enough.
Mm-hmm.
I had preeclampsia. I also my son had intrauterine growth restriction, so he's very, very tiny in the womb.
Mm.
And I had preeclampsia with both pregnancy. My second son, he ended up in the NICU for an extended amount of time as well because I had to give birth to him early because of the preeclampsia.
Mm.
What led me into the birthing experience in particular is because, well, first off, for a lot of women, giving birth is their first time in a hospital setting where they're staying somewhere for an extended amount of time. For most women who are generally healthy, it's their first time. And so you're navigating a completely different environment, system, and this is the most vulnerable time of your life, giving birth to a child. You are in a tiny little robe, you are exposed, you are trying to just make sure this baby gets here safely. It can be such a vulnerable experience.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just, in my opinion, there was not enough mental and emotional support around
Mm.
how to feel safe in this type of position. And also when there's complications and things get scary and overwhelming and distressing, and then you're thrown into motherhood.
Mm.
There you go. Take this car seat, get on home, expect to sleep for 2 to 3 hours.
Y'all, she's sharing my story to the T. Like we are like this whole thing you said, I'm just like, yes, it was my experience too. Never ever was I admitted to a hospital. I worked as a medical technician.
Mm,
So I was the one on the other side
hmm.
doing blood pressures, IVs, taking care of people that were in the hospital. Um, so when you said that, I was like, I never acknowledged that. That's number one. Number two, this preeclampsia discussion was never had with me. It was maybe the day before when they said, hey, you've got ketones, which are, sugar in your urine,
Hmm.
and you need now to come to the hospital because we're doing an emergency C-section. And there was, my husband, he's already scared because he doesn't know what this even out. I've got medical background. I understand the language, but until it is happening to you,
Yeah.
that's why I feel like this discussion, like you said, needs to be shared so much more often. And I'm sure we can go on and on and on with the stories. Dee Dee is over here, y'all, and people just blowing up over here, y'all.
Amen.
Dee Dee said her twins were 2.5 months early,
Hmm.
and she had bad postpartum with the husband stationed in another base in another state.
Yes. And let's talk, if it's okay. I
Oh
know
yeah, let's go.
there's lots, but the military families, when your spouse is deployed, that is a huge, that can feel so isolating and so
Mm,
lonely, and you're just navigating new territory. And so you need, right, it makes sense why you would struggle mentally and emotionally, and a lot of women don't know that that's so common. Your hormones are changing, you're not getting any sleep, you're taking care of this baby around the clock. Like, of course you're stressed, of course you're dealing with a lot of emotions, and you deserve the support to navigate that and not navigate it in isolation. So
mm.
that is, I'm so glad you mentioned that piece, because a lot of military moms need that extra support postpartum.
I agree. If I had someone that I could talk to who wasn't dedicating their time to other things. So they had nurses, but the nurses are overwhelmed with their patient load, right? Then you have mental health providers, but they are overwhelmed with that side of the house, right? To have someone who is not only helping with the maternal health, but at large, you staying in the hospital and what this experience is going to be like. And if there are complications, because I don't know about you, but I was on magnesium drip for 3 days, which was the, you
I
know,
need to.
yeah. So, I was gorked out. I had no idea really what was going on. And my husband was the one really taking care of our son. And so, that initial phase where I didn't have any bonding time really, because I thought my pregnancy, my delivery is going to go just like everybody else's. I'm going to have a natural delivery. I'll be up in here and,
Yeah.
and it just didn't go that way. And I think too, for me, I blocked that out of my mind. And it was just another thing, Queen.
Mm.
It was just another thing that happened. And I just said, well, it is what it is. I'm just going to stuff these emotions down because I got to get back into my uniform. I got to get back in shape. I got to be the example. So, nobody's trying to hear all this about how tired you are or some of the emotional, because I was a mess. I was a mess. And so it is this thing that we as a society need to acknowledge, and for women to share their stories because they matter, like you said. And Dee Dee also put into the comments, all with the career, like I said, and she was in the military too, with the career that required me to bounce back in 6 weeks at that time.
Yep. And that's what you both shared is so important because you had to stuff it away at the time. When we have to go into survival mode, our nervous system will put us in survival mode. So if we have to compartmentalize, if we have to put it in a box, if we have to just keep going, that's what we will do. And it does serve you for that moment of time, but those emotions are still inside of you. They haven't gone away. They're just in a box. So that's what I mean is I want to help women come out of having their emotions and their experiences put in boxes that they're just carrying around. So, because then you don't realize, hey, why am I angry about? Where is this coming from? What am I irritated about? Right? These things are popping and we don't recognize there's a thread in these things.
Listen, you're like taking this. Listen, it's a trajectory. All right. And I've talked through this, and some of y'all know how I am very into like changing the trajectory of our generations. You think about our ancestors and what they had to do. Now, my grandmother had 14 children. All right. So 14 children. And even if you have a slight bit of, angry, frustration, you're not well supported, and then continue to have it on and on and on again. And now our generation is talking about this, and we are actually making, this declaration is a declaration that those times, that was real survival. I felt like that was like real survival because you were having children because of the economic reasons, right? So if you have farmland to take care of, if you've got, a business, if you will, that's up underneath someone, the children were involved.
That's right.
So now it's like we're taking the curtain, pulling it all the way back, and we're saying, you know what, y'all, as women, sometimes these things that we do, we don't have to do them the same way. We can change the way that we view maternal health care. And having an individual like yourself who comes in and is able to walk you through so that way you're not holding on, because the work that I'm doing is making a woman whole.
Yes.
Right? A woman that is whole, because women are in these leadership roles and sometimes they don't see themselves as leaders, but they're actually the glue that holds everything together.
Yeah.
If what my work does even just takes a little bit of, let's make this woman whole. All right? Because and to have them identify themselves as a leader. Right? But you can't do that if you are holding on to past traumas and living into that, right? So, the work that you're doing, again, I commend you, all right? Because it's not a sexy or, somewhat a glamorous role of playing into, but it's absolutely necessary.
It's real.
It's real.
Real life. And I love that you said whole, because it's about, like you said, wholeness. And how do we get wholeness? When we're really connected to ourselves, connected to our mind, connected to our heart, connected to our body. If you're a spiritual person, connected to your spirit. That's how you walk in wholeness. But a lot of us walk in disconnection. We've had to disconnect from ourselves because of what we've gone through. And that's the survival. But abundance, feeling worthy to live, that's when you're fully connected, walking in wholeness.
Yes. So I know that, you have your clientele base, and without sharing names, of course, like, tell us what you're hearing. Tell us, outside of our stories, like, what else are you hearing with this? That is somewhat common.
Yeah. Well, what I'm hearing is women who are feeling quite helpless. Like, they feel a sense of that they don't have a choice in the birthing experience, the things that are told to them. And that often providers can, at times, not all providers, but providers at times can use almost a fear tactic. If you don't make this decision right now, then X, Y, and Z. And so it feels as though you have no choice, no autonomy, a moment to really think. I often hear a lot of women say, I wish I would have advocated for myself more. I wish I would have stood up for myself more, or said more. But I meet that with a lot of compassion of, in that time, you were under an amount of pressure, right? And in that environment, your prefrontal cortex, your thinking mind, is turned off. You're just focused on you being healthy and your baby being healthy. And so the way you would think outside of that environment is very different. There is this sense of just helplessness or feeling very disappointed by how certain birth experiences go, a lot of grief around it as well. And those are the conversations I want to make room for, because a lot of women, as I said, get just thrown into motherhood, but they're carrying all those things in boxes. And the reason it's important to make sure we're dealing with those boxes, because, like you said, the generational piece, it can impact bonding with your baby. I know when I went through my postpartum depression, I did not feel connected to my son early on. I was like, what is this motherhood thing? I don't think I'm cut out for this. I didn't feel connected. I didn't feel bonded. But a lot of women feel, we feel so much shame around that. What does that mean about me as a mom? I must be a bad mother. No, you went through something very distressing, very overwhelming, very traumatic, and you need to process that.
Yeah.
Right. So those are things that I hear and help with, and
and to validate what they have said, I can relate. One of the things that I experienced, I didn't breastfeed AJ. And our son's name is Andrew, and I call him AJ. And it was a choice. And I got a lot of heat from other people who were saying, well, you should have. And I had to stop myself in the moment. I catch myself, I remember really feeling guilty and feeling shameful that
Mm-hmm.
I tried, but it didn't work. And it was almost like, well, you need to keep trying. You need to do it like this. You need to, and everything inside of me was like, this is not going to work. This is not working.
Yeah.
I have to make a choice right now of whether or not I'm going to continue with this energy because I'm already overwhelmed with motherhood.
Yeah.
And so when I said I'm not going to, and I remember the day that I just bounded myself up and I just said, that's not going to be part of my experience. And I mean, he's healthy. If y'all see him, he's doing just fine. He is thriving.
All right.
And he was thriving just as much on Infamil. All right. And I was like, yeah, you gonna take this Infamil. All right, because that's all I can get right now. But that's just a piece of what we kind of have to decide. And when you don't feel like you're being well supported in that, I took it for what it was, but I just pushed it over to the side.
Yeah. And I think, Slay, what you're really touching on is the expectations that moms feel like we have to live up to, that societal pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Breast is best, or mothers are strong, they sacrifice everything, and all of these pressure that we put on ourselves. Not that we don't want to be the best mom, but it's whose expectations are we trying to live up to? Is that your voice or somebody else's voice?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I can remember breastfeeding being really hard with my son as well. And what a lot of women also experience that I see in my practice is, if your birth experience was really unpredictable and overwhelming and emergencies, that will want to regain control somehow postpartum. And so breastfeeding feels like a way for us to have control again. If I didn't have any control over my birth experience, I'm going to somehow have control over this feeding. My baby relies on me to feed. So I'm going to try to get this feeding to happen as much as possible. And there's a ton of pressure around breastfeeding.
Girl, you did. What are we doing all in here, y'all?
Listen. Are we seeing threads? That's what I try to do. I'm like, let's see those threads.
Yeah, it's like I saw it. I had a coworker that was working with me. We shared the same office, and her pregnancy delivery was unpredictable, and it was crazy time for her too. She had an emergency C-section as well. And she came back in here, and that machine was just pumping. She would close the door and just be pumping and pumping away. And I'm like, okay, we're in uniform. We're trying to get this work done, right? And here she comes. And again, this aha moment of what she was doing. Because I mean, it was like, no, you're right. I'm going to control these feedings. And then oh goodness, y'all are here on this line over here in Facebook. Dee Dee said, this is where you wish you had someone to advocate for you, to take the load off of you.
Yes, that's right. Yes. To take that load off of you. It's true. We don't realize how much we're carrying until we sit it down. Sometimes you be carrying a bag, you don't realize how heavy that bag is until you put it down.
Yeah, my purses be like, I'll be like, well, I chose the wrong purse today. Okay.
I'm not carrying all of this.
I'm like,
why am
I carrying all these things?
Right.
You're right. We do. And it's just not in this space. It's all the other things that we do as a mom, with so many hats that we wear every single day, and we don't even think about it. We just do the dang thing. Okay. We just do it.
Yeah. Yes.
So we have to take the time to recharge, to reset, to think about how we can distribute energy, right? Because that's where I'm at right now. It's all about energy and like you said, prioritizing what's best in the moment right now for me, knowing I have all these things that I have to be doing. And that could be hard and most difficult. And then Leslie says, the way society has positioned childbirth is something we need to be able to do, even if it is the first time. As women, we need to give each other grace, as every experience is not the same for every woman.
Yes. 1,000%. 1,000%. Two women can both have a C-section and one come out experiencing it completely different than the other one. Yeah, so
It's
true.
it's the monolith insight for me too. It's childbirth, and this is to speak to anything, y'all. It's like, childbirth, this is how it's supposed to go. Okay. If it don't go that way, you didn't really have, you know what somebody told me? You didn't really have a delivery because you didn't have a normal one.
Mm.
And I was like, I remember getting the epidural, getting sliced, because I still was feeling somewhat of the pressure for that. My blood pressure went sky high, and I didn't think I was going to actually live. I looked at my husband and said, I'm not going to make it. I just felt like my body was just shutting down, so when people say these types of things, I know that they're not doing it out of malice, all right, but they're deriving from their own experience, and they don't account for what is really happening for you. And this space that you're working in, is something that needs to be duplicated in all communities.
That's right.
Because there has to be a shift in the way that we see. And I just want to make sure no one else here is giving us any more comments. So let's talk through a little bit about the after. Okay. So we've compartmentalized, we shoved it into, a box, we've moved on, and we're just like, now some of us may be opening up a new wound, okay? Because we're like reliving what really happened in the moment, because we now are talking through this. I know for me, that's what I'm doing. So what are some suggestions or maybe some pieces of advice that you can offer to kind of get us back to, or get us to not the survival mode of what we maybe been into, but coming out of that and transitioning into not forgetting, but moving forward?
Yeah.
So what would you suggest?
Yeah. So there's two things that I help my clients to do in session. One is I help them to get clarity. So clarity over their patterns, clarity over all of the ways that they may have learned to cope with what happened to them. Because that can show up in very subtle ways. It could show up in overworking. It can show up in people pleasing. It can show up in shrinking yourself. It can show up in avoiding certain situations. So we have to get clear, what is the territory and landscape that you have been treading and you've been walking this whole time that has become familiar, but it's still survival, right? Like, even though it's been your familiar territory, it's still operating in survival. So let's get clear on that. First, clarity of the patterns. And then second is the curiosity and it's choice. So those kind of go together, but choice. We then want to see, okay, this is where I've been. This is how I've been pressuring myself. These are the expectations I've been holding myself to that I don't want to hold myself to anymore. Now, what do I want to do now with this information presently? What choices do I want to make now that are more aligned with what I want most for myself? And commonly, what I hear what women want most for themselves is they want peace and they want to be authentic. They don't want to have to dim their light. They don't want to have to be the strong one 24/7 and they can't say how they feel or do, they want to be authentic and they want to have peace. And so now, then the second part is the choice. What are the present things that are stressing you out, that you're struggling with, that are triggering you? And what new choices can we make around those things? So it's clarity and choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That makes sense.
I love, and Leslie's agreeing with me too, clarity over the patterns.
Yeah.
Because maybe people aren't really recognizing patterns.
Yeah.
So tell us what patterns are.
Yes. Okay. Great question. A lot of our patterns is repeated, I'll say it like this, repeated cycles, repeated ways of relating to an emotion or a circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
And often this can develop in childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that you grew up in a household where you didn't really talk about feelings at all. So you don't have language to what you're feeling now as an adult because you didn't learn it as a child. So then the pattern is whenever you start to feel something that you don't really understand what you're feeling, you cope or you go to a strategy to deal with it instead of actually understanding, getting curious about what's going on inside of you.
That's good. Mm-hmm.
Y'all following? That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I mean. And it often can show up, for example, if you have a pattern of, we talked about the doubt or the insecurities, right?
Right.
You may have a pattern of not advocating for yourself or negotiating small when it comes to this business deal or this opportunity. You downplay yourself, right? And maybe that's because there's a pattern of feeling like you weren't really worthy or you weren't really accepted or you didn't really belong, right? And that some of those things can stem from childhood or they could stem from a single kind of past hurt or traumatic thing that you went through. So again, I'm talking about these threads that have kind of happened over time that now, show up in these ways. So we got to get clear on that of where this is coming from. Because when you get clear on where it's coming from, you can look at it from a more place of compassion. Oh, I understand why I do those things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not just crazy. I'm not just
Girl.
in myself because I just love this feeling. No, there's history to this.
Mm-hmm. Listen, you came on this show, Brittany, and I'm like, girl, this right here is good. Okay, this is really good because this is helping some folks. This is helping some folks. Okay, because these patterns, and Leslie put it into the comments here. She said these patterns can affect us in business and personal relationships. All right, and most people aren't tracking, all right, or they don't want to track them. They say things like, this is who I am and this is what I do.
Yes.
So if you don't like it, then that's your problem, right? And then it is like the cycle, like you said, of just, ways of how they are coping or, doing what they do, and they don't understand what is really going on and why it is just so off, right? And so that's one. And then Leslie said, of course, this is juicy. I was like, yes, it is. This is just the work that you are in right now.
Mm-hmm.
And she also put on here, how you do one thing, you do everything, right? So it is is it's definitely so not only are you helping in a specific area, it touches on all the other areas of a woman's life,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know?
That's correct.
So, recognizing and getting clear on these patterns and then being curious and making decisions
Yep, your choice.
on what is it that I need in this moment? How can I bring myself back to center,
Yeah.
you know? And that way, every decision that does not need to be um, played out to someone else, okay? Because sometimes that's what we do. We ask. And when you get answers that aren't going to work for you, you got to be able to say, thank you. But in this moment right now, I think I'm going to go in a different direction. Right.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
advocating for yourself can be one of the hardest things that you ever do. It's one of the hardest things that you do because you're using your voice.
Ooh, come on.
You're
Come
using
on.
that voice, which
Yeah.
again, sometimes we don't even know what our voice sounds like because we had never really truly used it in such a way where now we're creating boundaries, which is yet another area that I think sometimes we take, I would say, for granted, or we don't really pay attention to. And then we're just accepting anything, and we're letting people just, take over. And deep down inside, that's not what you want,
Mm-mm.
you know?
Mhm.
So I really feel like this is work. This, like you said, is a calling for you. Is the deep work, you
Yes.
know? And so, after they do a session with you and they're, in somewhat of a, recovery, you know, if you could tell us like what has changed for them of
Yeah.
what, some of the things that they've been able to do based on having discussions with you about where they were at.
Yes. Great question. So, one, because they become more clear of their
Mhm,
history and how their history is impacting them now, they're able to call it out when they see it more quickly in themselves,
mhm,
right? So it may not be that the strategy or the thing goes away overnight, because remember, you have been using these types of strategies, overworking, people pleasing, perfectionism, all the things for a long time. So you're creating new pathways, but you're recognizing now when those strategies come up and they no longer have the power over you. You get to make a
mm.
choice of what you want to do.
The power.
You're more empowered. Yes. Because
Power.
aligning themselves to their authentic version, not how what they went through shaped them, the trauma that tried to shape them, but authentically who they are, as you talked about that wholeness, fully connected.
Mm.
So they make choices that are more aligned with that of who they
Yeah.
are versus what the trauma tried to make them to be.
Mm. Yeah. And that personal power, a lot of times people don't understand that concept either. And I talk about it quite often as well. The power within you, the power that has always been there, but for whatever reason it got, stuck, and it is not being expressed
Right.
truly in the way that it was meant to be expressed. And the power that we have when everything is connected, mind, body, soul, you could tell. So I can use, I'm not an empathic or empath. I think that's how they, refer themselves. But I can tell when a woman is broken. All right. I can tell. And it is in the posture, it's in the language, it's in their communication, it's even in their walk. All right. It's evident to me that something happened. And I don't go in, and I used to when I was, still in uniform, because, in that arena, it was a much different approach. But, now when I see a woman who's been broken, sometimes I'll say, "Hey, Queen, I see you, and it's okay." I had a young woman the other day. I was at AJ's basketball game, and teenager, and using all kinds of profanity, words I would never use at that age. So, I have a very high tolerance level, because kids are just trying to find their way. But after a while, I just turned to her and I stared at her, and me and her had our eyes locked. And all I did was put my hand just like this to say, "Calm down." And she did. And I think it was her way of pay attention to me. I'm not being paid attention at home. I want to be seen. I want to be heard. But it wasn't being translated very well. So that's the kind of things, and these are small moments. These are very small moments. But if each one of us have a skill set that they can bring to the table and to offer to another woman, instead of breaking them down and, making them seem like they are not of worth, because you don't know whose story is what story. You don't know. You have no idea what it took. I think this world will be a much better place. I really feel that. So this work that we're doing, it may seem like it's a lot, but I'm like, who else? If not us, then who?
Yeah.
You know?
That's so true. That's so true. It's leading with what you did with that young lady, like that compassion is what I also try to do in my, like, compassion and humility and curiosity. If we could get curious before we get to judgment, if we could show compassion before we get to criticism, if we could get to humility before we get to pride and hatred, how would things be different? Not only with how you treat yourself, but how you treat other people around you.
Yeah. This has been so good. I mean, like, I could talk to you all day, Brittany, but I know.
I can talk about this all day.
Right. Yeah, 2 and a 4-year-old. Yeah, 2 and a 4-year-old back there. So I was like, okay. So Leslie put this comment in here, and I was like, okay. And I affectionately call Leslie Madame. Okay. She said the Calvary is not coming. Okay. The Calvary is not coming. You have the power.
Come on. Better say that, Leslie.
Leslie better say that, right? I was like, it is so true. We got to get ourselves in a position to help ourselves.
Yes. Do you want to be well?
Do you? And I don't think that is a hard question. It is an open-ended question. Because sometimes when we're in these traumas, we play the victim role, and we stay in the victim role because it's safe somewhat, right? Everybody knows this is how I'm going to show up, all right? And y'all going to have to adjust to how I'm up in here. And you're like, okay, but you can be well. You can,
You can.
you know, and it is not about how we're feeling about it. It's how do you feel
Right.
when you wake up in the morning? How you feeling? When you look at yourself in the mirror, how do you feel about yourself?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there is help. There is help. So I know that sometimes these can be hard and they can be difficult and challenging, but this is all in the vein to make sure that we are slaying all the things, y'all, because you know me, I'll put the fire back on here. All right, we are slaying all the things, but we must make sure that we are coming from a good place, y'all. We got to
And I
come from a
want
good
to
place.
say too that it does take a lot of courage
Yeah,
to confront these things and sit with these things.
yeah,
It does take courage.
yeah.
It is much easier to keep doing the same thing that you've been doing, but what is it costing you?
Mm,
What is it costing you?
mm, yeah.
And so that's the question. Do you want to be well? What is it costing you to not be well, to not be aligned to your authentic self,
Mm-hmm,
to your most connected self with your mind, your body, your emotions?
mm-hmm.
What does that cost you? And so and I recognize it does take a lot of courage, but once you're there, it truly just opens up so many possibilities that you didn't know were there for yourself.
Mm,
Opens
yeah.
up possibilities in life, in relationships, the relationship with your own self. It's beautiful.
Self relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to actually love yourself.
Mm. Yeah.
To love yourself
Right?
and to be one with yourself and then be like, I really love this girl. I really love,
To love yourself without all the titles, without all the status, without all the yes,
you know,
who
it's
you are.
possible.
It
It
is.
is truly possible. So we're
Mm.
at the top of the hour. And y'all, thank you so much for hanging in with us tonight on the live show. So I've got two questions for you, Brittany, before we step out of here. So the first question is, what is it that you want to share with the audience before we hop off of here? I've got the last question for you. But what else haven't you shared already that you would love to share before we leave?
Well, I would just let everyone know that I have a mental health practice in Columbia, Maryland. And so I also do virtual sessions for Maryland and Washington, D.C. So if any of this resonated with you, and even not just the maternal mental health, but just with any emotional, suffering or detachment or things that you want to process, understand those threads, understand those boxes, that load that you're carrying, then reach out to me. Let's have a consultation. Let's talk for 20 minutes to just see what support could look like for you. And I'm happy to do that. I'm really glad to be here and have talked to all of you all.
Yes, we love having you here. And I really thank you for sharing all the insights and doing the work that you are doing. And y'all, like the DMV, all right, that's where we at right now. So if Columbia, Maryland is probably about 30 minutes from me. So if you're up in that area, and like you said, the virtual in Maryland and DC,
That's right.
she can take you on, she get you right. Okay. Again, this is Slay Nation. So everybody in Slay Nation need to be right. So if you got to get yourself into one of her sessions to do that, please, please, please reach out to her and she can help you with that. Also, the last question is something that I've been wrestling with for probably the past couple of years. For me, and you're much younger than me, Queen. Okay, so I know this might not be something at the front of your what you're working in right now, but I know that I have more days behind me than I do in front of me. So for me, at this point in my life, this is all about legacy. and it is the changing the trajectory of generations to come after me. So I went to my 80th my aunt's 80th birthday party, and everybody was telling how great she was. I mean, they were giving her flowers and everything, Queen. And I was like, they straight on the money. They are talking about her, and everything they are saying is true. So I was like, well, what would they say about me on my 80th birthday party? Because I'm about to have my 80th birthday party. All right, now I'm in my 50s, my early 50s, so it's gonna take a little bit, but but I'm working every day to make sure, because there are certain things that I do want to hear, because I am doing things intentionally and purposefully. So if God gives you, let's just say for your age, because younger than me, if God gives you 50 years, all right, what would you want your family and friends to say about you at that birthday party?
Oh, that's a good question. I would want them to say that I loved, that I served, and that I was what's the word? Reliable is not the right word that I'm looking for. Present. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for. Consistently, present.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it really just it rooted down to that I loved well.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would want to hear. That I served my family, I served my community, I served the people that God put in my path, and I love people well. I think that ultimately is what I would want people to say.
And Queen, you are a woman of substance. Oh, you're a woman of wisdom. I already feel like you have blessed many of people.
Praise God.
And your energy and your whole presence says, I want to take care of you. And for me, these types of questions, they're a little bit more of, wow, this is like, I haven't really thought about this.
Mm-hmm.
But life it goes like that.
Right.
And in a split second. So,
Mm-hmm.
having a thought of what are you doing on this earth and how you can make an incredible impact. And you have no idea the lives that you can touch. And so, that's kind of how I am now. I loved your answer to the question. And I just want to say thank you to you for one. And then we had Melissa in here on LinkedIn. We have a Mother's Path, which is my great friend, my sister in arms, Dion Williams. She's on the YouTube side. She just came on in. So thank you, Dion. And then on the Facebook side, I see Scott Peisel. I saw you were watching at the beginning. Me and him served together at my last space. And then Dee Dee Glodowski, she's over there as well. Leslie George. And then Leslie said, great show, ladies. Thanks, Brittany. So we had an amazing SLAYMAZING show. Okay, I'll just say that. SLAYMAZING show tonight. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for
I know I'll see you. You're welcome. I know I'll see you soon, Queen. And for all those that came in here, thank you so much for taking the time and being here on the live show. Now, if you come back for the replay, go ahead and put in #replay, if you will, or just share a comment on what you thought about tonight's episode. Y'all, you don't want to miss. And I say this every show because these are do not miss shows. Okay. I have another guest coming on Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you don't want to miss that one as well. And then if you are wanting a little pick me up, I'm on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Rise and Slay morning show. All right. Just so that way you can get yourself together, get yourselves right. All right. For the week. Dion says, love you, Queen. We've got someone from FDW White. This was awesome. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. And then Melissa said, awesome show. Thank you, ladies. Okay, so we're going to keep on slaying. All right, y'all, until we can't slay no more. And we'll see you all very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.